Hey guys, Santoli here with another tier list video. So we just got the ban list out, so this is what we're going to have for the 300th YCS. I think the list is what everyone kind of expected, maybe not every single individual hit or on a hit, but I think the power level of a lot of the decks are where people expect them to be, so I'm not going to do a video for that. Just going to move into the Burst Protocol decks and what is the best decks, or are the best decks for the 300th YCS. This is my opinion naturally, and I try not to just do what everyone else is doing, so you will have your normal contrarian Santoli takes. The big thing is we're kind of entering weird territory where we don't have the OCG to look off of, and it's a bit more speculation where we really have no clue what will be the best deck going forward. We have some guesses about what's up there, but I think there's a lot of decks that just remain unsolved, and the power level, it's really hard to gauge going to the next YCS, and that's what makes it fun. But here are my thoughts where things should be placed. So starting off, we do have Draco Tale. This is the best deck. Going forward, I don't think it's any surprise here. The hits did do a lot. I see a lot of people saying like, oh, it didn't do nothing. You just replace the hit Draco Tale cards with the either Magician stuff or the new Fallen cards. And the big thing to keep in mind is that Draco Tale is not one of these one card combo decks where you just get to replace one of your stars with another stars and everything else is the same. It's a multiple card combo deck. You do need to draw multiple Draco Tale cards to get everything in rotation. If you're drawing one Draco Tale card, it doesn't matter if you have other fusion outlets, you can do other stuff, but you're not going to have the Draco Tale traps in rotation, and that's kind of the best part of the deck. And so by reducing the number of Draco Tale stars you have, or Draco Tale fusion materials you have, 2 Malu down and 2 Ketu, because it's naturally a monster, it means you're going to have a lot less access to all 3 traps, especially if you're getting hand trapped. That's not to say that the new Fallen cards are bad at all. They are very good in their own right, but I think that people underestimate how much you really do need Draco Tale cards in that deck. You really want to open multiple, and like I've played this deck at 3 YCSs, and there's one list I played had 21 Draco Tale cards in it, like 15 monster names, and then the 3 of each spells, and I still felt like I didn't draw enough Draco Tale cards sometimes. So I think the hit will be relevant. You will feel it, but regardless of that, it will still be the best deck. As for the version, I think that the Fallen should be in basically every deck that it can have it in the sense of like money-wise. It is just the best engine. Not necessarily insane going second, but good enough going second, and very, very good going first. I think the Magician stuff is a bit hit or miss. You can choose to play it all together, or you can just pass on it. Regardless, I think that will be the deck to beat going forward. Next up, we have Branded. I think that while this deck did get new things, it didn't really help in the way Branded wanted to. It kind of tried to reinvent the deck too much, which is why I'm not a super huge fan of it. What I mean by that is before, when we had Branded, which was functional in Snake Eye form, like it wasn't super long ago, it was very much a gas deck where you played a bunch of breakers, and the problem is that we got new Branded cards that don't really help the gas version. Like Fallen of the White Dragon is much more of an efficiency card. It's very good at doing one card combos than it is at just pushing through boards. And so that kind of has this identity crisis right now where it's like, how do you build it? It still can be built breakers. You still can kind of play it mid-range if you want to do less of the bricks, but it doesn't really feel like the whole old brand deck of all gas got better. It just felt like there's another strategy, or it did get better, but not by a large amount. It just felt like the more holy version where you don't have to play all these bricks got significantly better, but that was the worst version of it. All things considered, I am putting this in good decks. I just think it has a little bit of identity crisis of what you want to try doing with the deck in terms of whether you want to build it very holy with a bunch of hand traps or whether you want to try playing it all gas, but I don't think the all gas version is insane. I tend to put this at the bottom as good once we start adding other decks there, but Fallen's a very good card. The deck was solid before. I think it's a reasonable choice if you really enjoy Branded. Next up, we have the 2 Crystron decks. So one is K9 Crystron. Shout out to Yashin here, who's been absolute tear with this deck. I think this deck is definitely one of the better decks going forward. It did lose double Jokel as well as the double case, which means you do lose a fair bit of consistency in terms of the deck. Yes, you have more Crystron cards, but I think trying to start with Crystron cards is a lot worse than start with K9 cards. The deck is still very solid, but that is one concern with it. The other concern with it is the fact that Proly is making its way into people's main decks a bit, and that deck does get hit by it a lot. Yes, you can still spell Canceller on it, or you can do Droll Droll Drendel to loop their hand. So you do have answers to the Chummies, but if you get Chummied and you don't have a good answer to it, it feels very rough. I think that the end board, while very good, naturally with Spell Cancer, it can get shut off sometimes by just the trap hand traps, which may see play in some of the other decks. And going second, it is decent, but I don't think it's anything insane. I'm fine with where it is. It was, I think around this power level before. It kind of got hit down, both the same as everything else, so I think it's still just going to be in this kind of runner-up territory. Next up, the Crystron Horus deck. So this is actually my specialty that I top province with a while ago. The only really reason I'm bringing this up at all is because, like I said, Prulia is making its way into people's main deck, and the Horus cards just allow you to completely ignore that. And we also did get 3 inclusion back. I also think that there are a lot of decks right now that are very grindy and mid-rangey, where they're just going to crack boards with Engine, and just force a grind game rather than kill you. And the Horus cards are so good in those decks. If I open Imseti, I make my Christian board and keep 2 horses on the side with King Sark up. It is absolutely obnoxious to try going through the board, because as soon as you touch anything, I'm just getting so much of an advantage back for next turn, and it becomes very difficult to grind versus that deck. I do think it's worse than the K9 version, but the Horus cards are significantly more breaky, and you do need to draw them as opposed to having efficient bridges, but I am putting this in good decks still. I had a lot of success when we had full power Malice and full power Razel. Not full power, but like near full power. And so I don't think this power level of the game right now is higher than that. I think it's still a functional deck. If you really like that version, I think now is the time to try it out again, especially with 3 inclusions. Next up, we have Elvenotes. This is one of the new decks coming out. The main way to play this going forward, at least right now, is with Fiend Smith. The Yummy version isn't good anymore since Herald got hit. And the big thing with this deck is it's bad into the Chummies, mainly both Fua and Prulia. It's okay in the Fua, but you're not really having an explosive board. The main thing with the Fiend Smith cards is it gets hit there. If you play pure Elvenotes, then it's better than the Fua, but I don't think that deck is particularly anything special. And I just think the power level of this deck isn't there yet. It does get some very good support in the May set. So it's not like this deck is going to be, low tier forever. It will get a buff up right now, but I just don't have faith in the cards right now. I think it's has issues with just both breakers, the Chummies, as well as regular hand traps, and I don't have enough faith in going second. I think it's a fine deck. So, it's playable. That's functional strategy for sure, but there's no real reason to play this unless you really like it. Next up, we have Fiend Smith. So it just represents the engine or Fiend Smith control decks. Just kind of what I think about Fiend Smith cards right now. I did talk about an Elvenotes. I think Elvenotes is a bit better as a Fiend Smith deck, where I'm going to put this in fine decks because you bridge into it so easily. Because you just make our Mateys, which is a level 5 like Fiend, and then you can bridge into Fiend Smith. But some other decks can't do it that efficiently. Overall, I'm not a huge fan of the Fiend Smith cards. I think it's bad into Draco Tale just because going second, it's not good. I think that Caesar's a good card, but it's not even insane versus everything. Like, it's bad versus the Radiant Typhoon deck. It's bad versus Fall on the Virtuous, which is going to be a lot of people's decks. I don't think it's a real much of appeal to play that engine unless you really enjoy it. Next up, we have Enrycraft. So this is one of the new decks that came out. I'm sure we've seen it. In theory, it's a cool deck. It does abuse Floodgates a little bit, but until we get the Maze support, it's definitely just a locals deck. You can play fun with it. It is pretty neat, but it has issues going second. Its whole game plan is kind of gimmicky. Awful Draco Tale matchup. Keep this for the local events. Next up is Yummy. So this deck got hit a lot. I will make a side note, a little side rant of I absolutely hate how they hit this deck on all the ban lists. I think that the first ban list where it got hit and a Beam School went down to 1, yes, that card was super powerful, but it just forced the Yummy deck, which was a pure and fair deck. Like, it was very good, but nothing inherently what it did was unfair. And I think a lot of people share that sentiment. It just turned that into a combo slop deck in the form of Mitsu Yummy, which was so much worse to play against. So it got mistreated there by a ban list, and this is another ban list where I just think it got mistreated. I think Herald was so pivotal on its end board, and the fact that we have no Herald now, I don't think it needed any other hits. Like, Snatchy did not need to go at all. It could have stayed at 3, let alone getting hit down to 1. That being said, I think that my issue with the deck is more the position of it than it is the actual power level of it. Like, I think one Snatchy, it can still function. I'm sure there's going to be some hybrids out there that are good. Maybe you play a small Yummy package, maybe you bridge into it. I'm going to put just the entire engine at the bottom of good decks. I'm a little bit hesitant here. I think there's an argument to put this down even lower, but the main deck is still very good. Cup Season, insane cards, very efficient engine. It is very easily splashable. I don't really want to write it off too much. I think in other formats going forward, once Draco Tale dies, because that was a horrible matchup for it, and Radiant Typhoon, another bad matchup because one is just engine very good into it, and Radiant Typhoon is something that is just a breaker deck, and other decks are also breaker decks right now. Yummy will struggle with that, but I think the engine is still just solid enough to be able to see some play and some tops here and there. Next up, we have one of my YCS winning deck lists. It's funny that both of my YCS decks got extra support. This is the one that got the better support in the form of Exo Sister. The new support is very, very good. It solves a lot of issues with the deck, and it's playable. It's good. I would feel completely comfortable taking this to a regional and trying to top with it. Is it YCS level? I'm not sure if it's there. It is good into the chummies. You're able to make efficient half boards. The tech lineup, I think you still have to play breakers with this, just because a lot of your cards are kind of low value in the sense that the old Exo Sisters aren't the best. It just feels really bad getting hand trapped and having to rely on them. But overall, it doesn't really have any major weaknesses. It's just the power level of the old cards is a bit too low to put anything better than fine. Like I said, similar Elvenotes, I think this deck will get some tops. It's not like it's just going to be completely off the radar. But just the overall power level of it isn't where it needs to be any better. Next, we have the Furhire K9 deck. So this is a deck that was getting hyped before, and if this deck was able to play all the K9 cards, I would still put this at the bottom of this tier list. I think this deck was completely awful before. Now, without max K9 cards, it's just completely awful. The biggest issue with this deck is, well, basically absolutely everything with it, to be honest. It is somewhat inconsistent. You play a lot of one-card starters, but the vast majority of them are normals. You're playing 3 Noroi, 3 Vex, and 3 Fossil Dig. All of them are normal. So it's not like you have the ability to play starter, it gets hand trap, and you have something else. Like, if you're just opening your one-card starters, one is going to work, and that's it. It relied heavily on tech cards. People were saying, like, you can play 17, 18 tech cards in the deck. That is not positive right now. The format isn't about just hand trapping the Engines of Death and then playing a one-card starter. It's about having smart trades with your hand traps, or chummies, and then using the efficient engine to clear up the rest of the board. And this deck did not have that at all. I also think that the idea of, like, you get chummied and just win the game because you draw a bunch of cards was completely fake. If they ever have Nib paired, you just lose the game. They chummy you give them draws, they draw Nib Veiler, game's over, they draw Nib Famina, you lose the game. If they ever draw trap hand traps, which while the best decks don't necessarily play it, are still going to be played in some of, the runner-up or good decks, your deck's also just awful. And with that, I don't think there's a single redeeming quality I can say about this deck. I think it was awful before the ban list, and now it just cemented it. Next, we have Gem Knight. So this is a deck I talked about high last year list, and I don't actually think I missed the mark on that at all. I think the power level of it is about where I thought it would be. It is the 13th most topping deck. It's one of those decks where I don't think a lot of good players are on it, other than Anthony Zhu, and I guess Brian Chen when he was playing it, and it's just a deck that is more complicated to buy, but has the same strategy. You build your deck correctly, you have good tech cards, you go second into decks, and you're able to obliterate them. And there's also the Crystron lock for going first, so you do have a valid game plan going first. I'm once again putting this in runner-up. I don't think it will have the largest amounts of success, but I think if you are someone who practices this deck and you have a good meta call in terms of your tech cards, you will have success in that event. And I am happy with where I put it. Last time I put it in the run-up category, and I think it still deserves to be there. It's this deck that will reward good deck building. Next, we have Yes. So this is the deck that I did not read correctly last time, where I said it was basically unplayable, and then somehow it became the arguably best deck of last format. So I think I actually don't know what I thought. It was a very clunky deck, but you just get there sometimes. If you have a good day, the deck is just the best deck in the game. It'll steamroll everything, and it was inconsistent for sure, but it was good when it went off, and I think it went off enough times to make it good. And now what happened is we lost to 2 Joko, we lost to 2 Case, but we gained a bunch of ES cards back. We also lost Holy Suit. Overall, I think the deck is a lot healthier of a position now. I think the VS cards are significantly more enjoyable to play against than the K9 cards. But overall, I think this deck is very, very good. I think you have a very good matchup spread. It has a good matchup in detail. Even now, going first, you're going to set up so much advantage where when they try cracking back into it, they can crack your board, but it's going to be very, very difficult to win the grind game against it. I think it's good into a lot of tech cards of the format. Perulia is a problem, but I think it's just Perulia. Droll got less popular. The VS cards are also better into Perulia because you can very easily give 2 draws and step your half board. And I think this is just going to be a list that's similar to I played earlier in the format, where you have like 1 Joko, 1 Case, 1 Noroi, 3 Azuna, and then just play your VS starters and go from there. I do need to see what this list looks like because it's just the deck had 40 good cards that you kind of wanted to play in the deck before, and now it doesn't. And so it doesn't need to get filled in. It doesn't need to actually have a good list in terms of like someone creating a good list to make it playable. But I don't think it should be that difficult, and I fully expect this deck to see a lot of representation at a lot of tops still. Some people are putting this as the best deck. Some people are putting this as completely awful. I've learned my lesson with VS, where I rated it last time. I'm not going to do that again. I don't think it's, like I said, it is worse than Draco Tale, but I think with the matchup spread it has and, just its overall game plan, I think it's solid enough to be up there. Next up, we have Killer Tunes. This deck is getting amazing support in May. Unfortunately, it is not even February, and so it's going to go in the Find decks. I think that there's argument to put this even lower, but it is seeing a fair bit of success in terms of regional results. It is a hand trap deck, which I think hand traps are decent, but it's nice because you kind of use them well in the sense that they're pseudo-engine, at least when you're synchro summoning. Similar to everything else in the Find decks, it has a valid game plan. The power level of it is just not high enough to justify me putting it any higher. Next up is Luna, and this is a deck that has not had much success in the OCG, and has had a decent amount of success in the TCG, where it was the 7th best deck last format. And that already tells me that it is very well positioned, because this deck got 0 hits on the ban list, and every single deck above it, Draco Tale, Malice, all those fun decks, Yummy, VS, they all got hit, and this is the first deck that did not take any hits. And I think it leaves it very well positioned. I think it's very, very good into Draco Tale. I think it's good into Rain Typhoon. The VS matchup is rough, but I think that's the only main problem with it. I'm going to put this in runner-up. The big reason I'm not going to put this, I'm going to put it at the top of runner-up. The big reason I'm not going to put this higher is because this deck does get worse than what people expect it. If people are just walking through their events with main decks outs to the Liger, I'm going to play Titanic Lad. I think this deck struggles a bit more. And I will keep in mind as well with this is you do actually need practice versus this deck, where you can't just say, oh, I have Titanic Lad there, make the Liger activate Brand Fusion. Like, they do have a lot of a board. They have SP, they have Babushka, they have the Hound Negate. So you do need more on top of it than just the out to the towers. But I think if you're getting chummied and people are respecting, you can't just take the chummy challenge and win the game because you summon a Liger. This deck does go down a lot in terms of power level, and I think that will happen to some degree. People will at least be aware of it. So I'm going to put it on top of runner-up. I also say this is a good deck going second, still in the Draco Tale or Rain Typhoon. And so it's not like just go first deck and win. So it is positioned fairly well. It's also very good in Perulia, but the fact that it's expected makes it go down. Keeps it from being outside the best decks, because that's where I would initially had it. Finally, we got to Radiant Typhoon, which is a deck I've mentioned a bunch of times. Unsurprisingly, I'm going to put this in one of the best decks. I think a lot of people agree with this, although it's not really proven yet. The deck feels kind of awkward in the sense that its end board seems very fair, and we have to actually see if it is enough to hold back some of the other decks. Like, it's very possible that this deck just gets run over when it makes its end board, or doesn't have the ability to go second. But overall, from my testing with it, I think it is very, very good. I think it has a good Draco Tale matchup. I think it just has a lot of tools going for it in terms of dealing with the other top-tier decks. I think the choice and breakers are very effective, and I think you just have a very effective grind game. Once you get there and you can force a lot of decks into the grind game, you're able to keep advantage up. It's trying to do this basically the same thing what Draco Tale does, except just quick plays instead of fusion materials. This deck isn't having the highest amount of success in the OCG. I think it's top 5 deck, top 6 deck. Like, it's not failing at all. But the fact that it's not having more is interesting. Malice is still a deck over there, which is not going to be here. So, the matchup spread will be a bit better. But I'm going to rate it high, and I rated it high last time when I shouldn't have. But we do need to see if this deck truly is going to stay up here, or if it's going to move, maybe down to the bottom or runner-up, because it hasn't been proven yet. But I can't see it going much lower than these top 5-ish spots. Magnet Warriors is next. It did get more support. This support is nothing special. It may actually be in Find decks. I haven't experimented with too much. The cards don't really that bad, but based on OCG success and the general combos I've seen, it plays bad into the chummies and fair hand traps and breakers. It's a power level thing, and I'm fine putting it. Just don't play these. Next up, we have Malice. This deck is so hard to evaluate because every time I look at this deck, I go, wow, this deck is dead, and it's never dead. One Dormouse is still disgusting. That being said, we only have one of the links now, and I think that is a big, big problem for the deck. Looping just Red Ransom is so much worse. You're not printing cards with free card economy anymore because of White Binder. You lose all draws, you lose all setups, you don't have the traps there. I'm going to put this in the bottom of fine. I want to put it in here, but I'm going to respect that the Cyverse archetype is just so broken. If you really want to play Malice, it was probably functional still. But that being said, I don't expect this deck to do much. I think Lances can finally come out of the main decks, unless you're respecting something else up here, like the Lunalight deck, or main deck, the side decks. but I don't think that this deck is anywhere near it was before. I think this list has finally knocked it down and out of the meta game, and thank goodness for that. Next up is Mitsu Yummy. The hybrid doesn't really work anymore. You can do zombie, vampire, and Yummy stuff, but bridge is only really insane if they go both ways, and you can't go Yummy into Mitsu. Mitsu also lost Habakuri, which means that you're less consistent. If you want to play either of the decks, you can try playing the individual ones, but I think the hybrid makes no sense anymore. Put Furhire at the bottom because I really dislike that deck. Next up is Pure Mitsu. This deck did lose 2 starters. You do still have starters. I think you can just up, some of your normal summons. You can also play more of the regular rituals and just try relying on 2 card combinations instead. I think overall it's positioned well. Like, it's a very good deck into the chummies. I think it's okay positioned to Draco Tale because the tax does really add up if they are getting to a grind versus your deck. And Habakuri getting hit, while it hurt the consistency of the deck, didn't actually hurt the grind much at all. You can just replace it with other more Murakumos, which in some sense is better once you get to the grind. I'm going to put this in good decks. I don't think Mitsu is out of the format yet. And, it's pure Mitsu, so I don't particularly care if it exists like this. I think this deck is fine, is healthy enough. So if you really like Mitsu, I think it's still fine. You just need to replace your best starter with some worse ones, but the deck still does what it needs to do. It's still effective at grinding. Next up, we have Man or Odon. So this can be played with the Primate cards or without the Primate cards. And this is, I think, the first deck in the Find decks where I think this deck's parallel is actually better than where it is. I'm a big fan of this deck. It does have some level of success. I think it's just a deck that a lot of people don't play because it is kind of helmety, or in theory. But I think the big issue with this deck is that, one, there's a deck that's literally MST.deck in the format. And 2, Fallen Virtuous is going to be a lot of decks. Like, these 2 top decks both play it. Lunalight can play it. The Gemini can play it if it wants to. Sky Striker can play it. Momento can play it. Those cards just completely obliterate the Man and Mark deck because you can't get your continuous traps to stick or your field spell to stick. And so I think it's just awfully positioned. I can see moving this up, to the bottom of good in future metas where that card isn't that popular. But for now, it's not positioned well. Keep it in Find decks. If you want to play it, you can, but you will have to dodge that card a little bit. Next up is Blue Eyes. I think this deck is just awfully positioned. Like I said earlier as well, is that it's not really a hand trap format anymore. It really is it's hand trap, but you don't want to play 18 of them. It's like, play your 1-2 hand traps, hit them, slow your engine down, and then have a strong engine to back it up. And that's the exact opposite of what Blue Eyes wants to do. Blue Eyes is an efficient engine. It's not particularly strong, and it wants to get carried by a strong engine. And so poor position, I'm going to put it in a Find decks. It's not, as bad the ones down here. This is a functional strategy. It's just the position of it is not good right now. But if you do have a good matchup spread, you can definitely have a good tournament with Blue Eyes, and it's still functional by all means. Next up, we have Orcust, and this is a deck, surprisingly, I'm going to put in runner-up. The big thing with this deck is it's just having results. Like, this was the 8th most hopping deck last format, and I see people not even put it on a tier list because it's so far out of people's minds. But the deck just has the results. You pure Orcust, you do have some Mitsu Orcust, but some are just the Horus Orcust, K9 Orcust, pure Orcust. It just has so many tops for no real reason. And I think it just gets better positioned going forward. I think Impulse is good into the format, maybe not into Rain Typhoons, one of the weird decks that actually Impulse doesn't feel amazing into, but it's good into the other 2 decks. It's good into Lunalight. It's one of the few decks where if they just make double Liger, it's I don't feel I immediately lose if I have an engine heavy hand. You can play Droplets, you can play Super Paul, you can play all those good tech cards. Fallen Virtuous is not insane into this. Lanciers are falling out of the format. The deck's just solid. I don't know what to say then. I think people just underrate this deck. I put this, I think, in good last time. I said it was a solid deck, and it's just gone up for me. I think the results of it just speak for itself. The biggest issue is just the consistency, where you don't have enough good starters. And I think if this deck had one more good starter, it'd be maybe even higher in the run-up tier. But for now, I'm going to respect the results and put it there. I think it's a fine pick if you enjoy this deck. We're on to Race now. This is the other YCS winning deck I have, and unfortunately this deck got some of the worst legacy support I have ever seen. It got a new link as well as a new main deck monster. Both of those cards are so bad, I don't think I would have played them in my 2023 list. We've moved forward 2.5 years, I guess 2 years, and these aren't even 2023 power level. The main deck monster is not a 1-card combo itself. It's also doesn't make Hydrant a 1-card combo. still somehow, after legacy support, Hydrant is not one card combo. Like, I'm not saying you have to do everything. It's like, it doesn't even let you set 4. The Link is a bit better in the sense you can play Fiend Smith with it, and that lets you go to Link 4 with Fiend Smith cards, and then try to combo that way. But it's not it. The support is just not enough. It's still missing consistency. I don't know how you go second. You can play Impulse, you play Fiend Smith cards. Let's just not touch this deck. If you're a big Santoli fan, play the Exo Sisters. Leave Race in the past. Next up, we have Rockets. The Dragon cards are obviously very good. I just don't think that they're doing enough. The end board's kind of weird. Like, we're still missing pieces. We miss Savage. A lot of them Dark Lock you as well, so you can't make Omega. They're banned the Chummies. The deck is functional by all means. Like, I don't think it's awful. But some of the other decks down here, it's a deck that I just question the power level, the end board, its ability to go second. It's not bad. It's just missing some things compared to the best decks up here. Next up, we have Razel. This deck is just kind of rank 4 pile deck now. Detonator is still a card. Cross is still annoying. The Draco cards are very efficient playing through fair hand traps. The deck is pretty breaker immune as well. I'm going to put this in good decks. I think it still had some results last format. Yeah, it was around top 12. It did have less than Odon, but I think Odon was better positioned last format than it is now. I'll put this above Yummy. If you like this deck, you can play it. It loses Featherstorm as well, where you can go Castell into the Featherstorm, but I do think this deck is very good going second, especially into some of the best decks. Like, into both these decks, you can just keep summoning rank 4 or level 4s and keep threatening Exoton, and just pull ahead that way. Your end board is very good. Detonator is also very good into the K9 cards, where you just start popping anything on summon. This deck also has a very good Luna matchup. It can be very noxious in some of the other decks. It's very good in the Mitsu, which just has them bodies you put on the board. I think it's good in the VS once you set up a Detonator, or Babushka as well. It still has that. It has tools at its disposal, and it definitely has not been power kept enough yet, and the hits weren't enough to completely kill it. Momento is next. I'm going to put this at bar run up. This is another deck I'm kind of a fan of, but don't play. I think it's a pretty decent format for it, where you can choose to play hand traps or breakers. You again want to have a good meta call on what you want to do with the deck, but if you do in terms of your tech cards lining up with the meta, it's very good at doing so. It's good into Prulia as well, which is very nice, where you can full combo depending on your starter getting 0 draws. So that's nice there. The grind game is very good, so if they try breaking it, doesn't, you're not super worried. Where if you make your full board, you can grind with Draco Tale and Radiant Typhoon. I think that's definitely something you can feel comfortable with doing. The reason it's lower is that while it can go second sometimes, it has some clunky hands where you're drawing pieces that you don't need to, or drawing too many normals, or you're just not drawing the one quick play. Passes the fair hand trap sometimes. Overall, it's a solid deck, but I think it's just has this kind of Momento moments where I'm not high rolling with it, that prevents me from putting it much higher. And last up is Sky Striker. I'm going to put this, we'll say, below Momento. Top of good decks, somewhere here. Solid deck. It hasn't had that many results in the TCG. I'm thinking Camilla may, which we're still missing, may play a role in that. I think it's positioned fine. It's just kind of worse than the best 2 decks in the sense that both of them are trying to grind, and the other decks just do it better. But it is solid. I can comfortably say it will blow most of these decks down here. It is good going second into a lot of the decks with just engine. You can play all the power spells, and it's solid there. But I think it's just worse than the best 2 decks at trying to play the grind game. So overall, this is the tier list. Like I said, I think Draco Tale is a little bit above the other 2 decks in terms of being the best deck, but it is beatable. It is something you build the beat and have a game plan for, and you'll have success with it. I think the consistency also will catch up to it a bit. But I think overall we're moving into a diverse format. You can choose what deck you want to play, what deck you enjoy, and have success with it if you have a good list and good read on the meta going forward. So as usual, let me know what your opinions are in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, guys.